There.
Good evening and welcome to the Kim B. Davis Show. I'm your host, Kim B. Davis, and this evening we have one of our favorite guests. We have Dr. Angela Celeste May, and we know her as our clinical, organizational, and forensically trained psychologist. She is also the president and co-founder of A.M. and Associates Incorporated. She is the president and founder of Celeste Productions Incorporated, past president of the Michigan Psychological Association Foundation Board, the Metro Detroit Association of Black Psychologists. She is a member. And if that's not enough, she's also an author, musician, and a trustee of the Michigan Health Council. And it is Women's History Month. So welcome, Dr. Angie. How are you this evening?
I'm doing fantastically well. Thank you so much, Kim. It's always so great to be here with you.
It is always wonderful to have you here. And of course, because it's Women's History Month and we're closing this month out, we could not have a fantastic topic. And I was really excited when we decided to do this. And we are talking about vulnerability and women, especially Black women. All right, so Dr. Angie, I love my pop culture and, I like to do my references.
Yes.
So, it's interesting because when you look across media, whether it's print media, whether it's television, reality TV, movies, historical accounts of different things, Black women are portrayed a few different ways. We're always portrayed as angry, volatile. We love to fight and just start stuff up. When we think about Color Purple, we talk about Sophia. Sophia was always balling her fist up, but there was a reason. I'm not knocking her character. I'm just saying it goes into the stereotype. And the other part of that is that we're overtly sexual. When we talk about assaults against Black women, especially young girls and young Black girl children, it has often been said, well, they mature faster. They're more sexual at that age. So we have all these stereotypes. And so as Black women, and you and I both are, as we go throughout the world, we have to combat some of those stereotypes. And it is difficult as a Black woman to be vulnerable in many situations. And so, we are intelligent, capable, moral, creative, and peaceful people. But most people think that we're the stereotype. And whenever I meet people, they're like, oh, you're not like those. I said, well, I don't know who those are. I said, because that's a character you saw on television or that's the character that you saw in a movie. I don't know any Black people like that. And people look at me like, well, where did you grow up? In the United States, in Detroit, Michigan.
That's right.
In the inner city.
That's right.
But I know I've given you a lot, but I really wanted you to talk about how that stereotype hurts Black women and women in general. Because, when we talk about unity and support amongst women, oftentimes, it can be fragmented based on what people believe in their perceptions on us. And then why is it also hard for women to express their vulnerability?
Oh, all excellent necessary questions that we all need to wrestle with. Starting with the last part of your question, why is it so difficult? I would say one of the historical reasons is because it's dangerous. It feels dangerous. There's all, just like you said about Oprah Winfrey's character from the movie Color Purple, which is also in the movie. I mean, the new movie as well, same character. Like you said, there's a reason, there's a backstory for her always balling up her fist. We have been, oh my goodness, women, definitely, and especially Black women, have been attacked in every way that you can think of, physically, mentally, emotionally, try to be kept down, kept back, you name it. And in a world that rewards what it thinks is strength, what it thinks strength looks like. And I would say, I started to say particularly in our country, America, but we see this across the world, different all kinds of societies, where not every society, but it is prevalent, I would say, in a lot of places where strength looks like you should never shed a tear. Strength looks like that you're supposed to just be able to muscle through it. Now, what's really interesting is that same, what I would call toxic mentality, is what men and boys are taught, and it is toxic for them as well, because showing vulnerability is actually a strength. It means that you are not afraid of your own emotions. It means that you are not afraid to let things out, because if you hold that in all the time, it becomes toxic internally. That's a lot of stress. It can affect your blood sugar levels, holding the pain in, holding unexpressed emotions in. It can affect your stress level, high blood pressure, all of that stuff. So there are multiple consequences for all of us, and that includes definitely for women and for Black women to not express those things. But in a society that's already historically trying to keep you down and back and away from fulfilling your full potential, being told what you are not allowed to pursue, let alone achieve, because that's not for women, or women are too weak for that, or not smart enough, all of those kinds of messages that have been handed down, that women and men have fought against forever, has made it, like I said, kind of dangerous, if we could put it that way, to show what looks like vulnerability, because it can open you up for further attack, for people who believe that women should be second-class citizens, as it can open you up to people saying, in essence, see, told you so, she can't handle it. The stereotypes, you name the stereotypes about Black women, which sadly are, like you said, are absolutely true stereotypes. I mean, not absolutely true, but there's stereotypes that are out there. And then when we expand that to women in general, you could add to that we're hysterical and we're not rational and all of those things. So crying, or not crying, just emoting, letting your feelings out, and whatever that might look like. If that is equated to being less than strong and unable to handle your emotions, or unable to handle yourself, it's been dangerous, because it's been fodder for people to use to try to justify the false concepts about what women can't handle. So all of that's is like just mixed into all of, all of the historical assumptions, many of which have been fought against. Unfortunately, many of them are still like hanging around, sticking around. But for Black women in particular, if emoting is part of humanity, and we are, quote unquote, not allowed to show our full range of emotions as humans are designed to do, in appropriate ways, of course, in societally and culturally appropriate ways, whatever that might look like. If we're not allowed to do that, then that means we're not allowed to be fully human.
Right.
And that's been one of the most tragic things that has been thrown against Black women in particular. Yeah. That's a major part of our humanity. So,
absolutely.
And I apologize if
no,
was another part of your question. Did I get all of it?
You did. You gave me so much to think about. I came across this great article, and I've seen, I love my TikTok. I've seen quite a few people who have expressed this belief that if you want to get something done at your company, if you want an effective leader, you want a project done well, hire a Black woman. And we sit there and we go like, high five. But I came across this figure, and it's 2024. 41 female CEOs, women CEOs, work in Fortune 500 companies. Only 2 of them are Black. And it's
a show of hands, who's surprised?
Right. I know. Right. 3.3% of corporate executives were Black.
Mm-hmm.
Only 2 were Black women. 4.4% Black women work in management. Only 1.4% work in the C-suite. That's the executive suite. That's your
Mm-hmm.
CEO, CFO, CIO, COO. But 41 women executives at Fortune 500 companies, and only 2 are women. We just
Wow.
had one hired a couple of days ago at I believe it's Xerox.
Okay.
Yet we have this notion. If you go across social media, you will see it. Lots of people will say, there was an article that I came across in Forbes, and one of the things it said, when you look at Black people, because we make up such a small percentage of those higher uh, roles or
Mm-hmm.
leadership roles, and then when you have someone who makes their way
Mm-hmm.
and can step into that space, typically they have a skill set, a behavior where they have learned to adapt to
Mm-hmm.
many different things. Like you talked about, being able to emote. We
Mm-hmm.
all know in our professional lives that when things hurt us, bother us, even if you want to cry, you don't,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't want people to, one, see that as weakness.
Mm-hmm.
2, you're being hysterical, like you said. Oh no, she can't handle it. We need to get
Mm-hmm.
somebody else. If you were at one of your board meetings and somebody said something that really hurt your feelings and you started to cry, no matter how terrible and mean it is, you better not cry. You better not cry. Talk, but
Mm-hmm.
talk about Dr. Angie in your experience, why you think that many people believe, because I have my own thoughts about why people believe that Black women make better leaders.
Well, I'm dying to hear your thoughts, but I'll answer your questions and I want to hear what you think. I want to hear what you think. Um, okay, so there's a couple of things, couple of levels here. First is I believe that for the most part across the board, meaning, whether it's men or women, whatever their background may be, where they are coming from and all that, generally speaking, people do believe that if you want to get something done, you give it to a Black woman. A lot of times people are not consciously aware necessarily of what that's based on. But as we were texting and a little earlier today, and as I was saying, Black women, we raise the world, right? We raise the
Yes.
world. But
Yes.
that
Talk
means not
about
just,
it.
yeah, absolutely, not just
Mm-hmm.
our families, and the I can't even just say our country in terms of
Mm-hmm.
the human trafficking, the burgeoning human trafficking industry known as slavery, which
Yes.
is you touched, England and all kind of
Mm-hmm.
Caribbean, and it's spread far and wide. We've raised other people's babies, other people's families, and then bring it up to, just even to today. But I was going to say in the last century, in the 1996 and 1975, and recent times,
Mm-hmm.
um, we're cleaning households, we're running everything. We're just running stuff all over the place.
Yes.
We're running offices, whether we're nurses, whatever, all of that stuff. So there's a long time history that people can point to, that they're aware of, that generations from their families and businesses and all, were running households, helping to run companies behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Who were, Black men and women were running the White House. We can just
Yes.
go on down the list.
Mm-hmm.
So there's proof that we get all kinds of stuff done. This is not even a
That's right.
question.
Mm-hmm.
And able to with great aplomb take care of our own as well,
Yes.
which
Yes.
is why we talk so much about how too often, Black women tend to leave themselves off their list. Black women in particular,
Mm-hmm.
we're the last ones if we even make it on the list, and It's so wonderful to hear people try to change that. We're hearing more of a narrative of people talking about Black women take better care of yourself. So I number one, I believe across the board, people really do believe that statement that women get things done. There's no question. Black women get things done. How is it ever? As a friend of mine would say. However, there's also too often, because we know that we embody two of the biggest isms, the Blackness, the beautiful Blackness, and the feminine. So the
That's
woman.
right.
So you've got double, we have the double ism, double prejudicial thinking against us. And so what does that mean? Okay, for your listeners and watchers, in case you didn't know, many of you know, but there's a lot of folks that, because this has not been their experience, they don't know, they don't realize it. When that Black coworker, Black man, when that Black male coworker, and it can be that Indian coworker, it can be that, different backgrounds. But if that person is promoted and becomes your new boss, a new supervisor, it's a very common thing, not everywhere and not every single company, but it's a very common thing that their former colleagues, their former white colleagues, who were previously very, a lot of camaraderie with them, interacted great, enjoyed talking and chatting and having a wonderful work relationship, now all of a sudden have a real problem.
Yes.
Because you're my boss. And I submit, I've had a long time theory that a lot of them, they if you ask them why, I don't think they could really put their finger on it. Like they're not really sure. There's definitely an overt and a covert training that goes on in a prejudicial racist society, that people, it's that caste system, people are supposed to be in their certain places. And if you are out of that place, it's never just about you, what you're doing, you've been promoted. Well, you're now disturbing what I was taught to believe is my place. I'm supposed to be over you.
Exactly.
I've already, we've gotten used to these desegregated working together. That's okay. We got that part. Some folks lost their natural mind about that. They're going to work.
Yes, they did.
So then you take those kinds of reactions about a Black male or a Mexican man or whomever becoming your new boss or supervisor. And then we will multiply some of those shocked and, just upset reactions when you make it a Mexican woman. Yes. Or Caribbean or Black, and definitely a Black woman. Because a woman's not supposed to be my boss. And definitely a Black woman is not supposed to be my supervisor or boss, let alone in the C-suite. That's just not, something's wrong with the world. And it psychologically have not fully tested this theory yet in terms of a formal study. But I posit that, like I said, it just shakes people's to their core, because it becomes very difficult psychologically if you were raised with, or if you do have a belief about those kinds of things, who belongs where in the caste system. Well, now what you're telling me is not that they earned that position. It's because something's wrong with me. Like that's not that. No, I can't be below that Black woman. So I think those two things are at play when we're talking about the C-suite. She's not supposed to be there. No.
You bring up a great point, and I wasn't even going here, but now I'm going to. So Vice President Kamala Harris, I think she is doing great work as Vice President.
I do as well, yes.
However, I have many conversations, and coming from the world of politics, I understand, likability, visual appeal, which is two different things. Visual appeal is are you appealing to the eyes? Are you pretty? Are you soft? And Vice President Kamala Harris sort of embodies all the things that we as Black women, we talk about. She's strong, she's educated, she gets things done, and she's not a Hollywood starlet, who comes out in these fabulous gowns, and she's like, I'm the vice president. Because if she did that, it would be a whole different thing. But she
Absolutely.
comes out, she says what she needs to say, she gets business done,
Mhm.
and folks are just up in arms. And I think about the state, and we can't get away from this topic. I think about the state of where this country is. And I
Absolutely.
know we talk about the caste system, and the people who are watching, if you have not read the book Caste by Isabel Wilkerson, it is a wonderful book. I have it on my bookshelf. I would turn and point to you, but I don't quite know where it is at the moment. But it is a wonderful book, and it explains a lot. And one of the things that we heard when President Obama was leaving office
Mhm.
and Donald Trump was running, everybody said Hillary Clinton can't win. And I kept thinking, but she's qualified. She was she wasn't just the first lady who picked out China patterns. She was
Nope.
trying to assist with affordable care where we are now. Back then it was called something different. But
Mhm.
she was involved in policy.
Absolutely. She was
But
involved in
everybody,
policy as first lady.
yes,
Then she went on to a very successful senatorship. She
secretary,
was
yes,
well, before,
and
yeah, she was a
secretary,
senator first, and then
senator first, and then
excellent, and
secretary.
then
Yes,
Secretary of State. Exactly.
yes. So you
Brilliant.
have all these things. You just said it. All these things.
Yeah.
And she could not beat a man who was vulgar in every shape of the word, form, shape of the word, from
Yeah.
everything he said to, and I'm not, you could be married as many times as you want. I find it hypocritical when people say family values, and I'm like, well, this is the first wife, but this is the second wife, and he cheated on the first wife with the second wife, and then he gets the third wife, and I'm like, but he was cheating with the third wife on the second wife.
And
Okay,
cheated on the third wife,
yes,
when she was pregnant or after she had the baby.
okay, make it make sense, make it make
Yeah.
sense, guys. I'm just trying to help you all understand. And
Hmm.
so when you talk about people being in their place,
Hmm.
and I had a conversation with someone who said, Kimberly, the day that the election happened and President Obama was first elected, and everybody was talking about how wonderful it was, she said, Kim, I was out in the suburbs. I was at a grocery store. She said, I was shopping. She said, an announcement came on, they had this screens. She
Right.
said, the stores were quiet. She said, I was
Hmm.
one of a few. And she said, people were very quiet. And I said, and and I always say this, for people who are not Black, African American, or of color,
Hmm.
it is difficult for you to sometimes understand the experiences of the people who
Hmm.
have negative experiences with police, who
Hmm.
walk into a business. I'm sure you walked in as a psychologist in a professional capacity, and somebody said, well, we're waiting for Dr. May. And you're like, I am Dr. May. You can't be Dr. May.
I was gonna say, to be honest, I have been very blessed, and that's something that I think that it's important to talk about too,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of times people mistake just like you were saying, in trying to understand.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would say that Black people and non-Black folks make this mistake sometimes too. It's
Mm-hmm.
important to say, um,
Mm-hmm.
the experiences are universal for people from the Black diaspora. But that does not mean that every single Black person experiences the exact same thing.
Yes.
So, and that doesn't take away the fact that it is a very real, dangerous, and palatable, thing.
Mm-hmm.
Myself, I have, honest to goodness, had a very rare time, and I'm very thankful in my career, very rare times where uh, people had an issue with, acknowledging that I'm Dr. May.
Okay.
I have had a little bit of that.
Mm-hmm.
I have had a little bit of that earlier in my career. And I have had that, where I've had it the most actually has been because I'm a college professor as well. So, um, uh, and that was because of the ageism, actually,
Yes.
mainly,
Mm-hmm.
mainly. Well, what's she gonna teach us?
Right. Exactly.
I
And
love that. I just love to see him coming. It's gonna be forever challenging. It's forever some white guy in the back,
right.
forever.
But that's the thing. That's the stereotype. When you think of a professor, you think of some older white gentleman or somebody older.
Exactly. Freud,
Not
first coming with the beard, the second.
right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not that this person could have gone straight from high school, gone to college, got their undergraduate, then
Yep.
went and got their master's. Because I know people who've done that, and
Yep.
they're not even 30, and they're walking
Yep.
around with a PhD, and I'm like, wow,
They got-
I wasn't quite that together in my 20s. The
everybody's
way
different. I was a
everybody
doctor
is
by
different.
30. I was a young doctor. I had a
And
2-year break with that it turns out I needed, which was good for me. But yeah, absolutely everybody's journey is different. And
everybody's
all
journey
should
is
be
different.
validated. Absolutely.
But it's interesting. So, I work at a law school and
Mhm.
I deal with a lot of law students, and as they graduate, especially the ones that are African American,
Mhm.
they talk about, when you walk into the courtroom, oftentimes people are like, "Oh, are you the defendant?" They're like, "No, I'm the attorney of record." And
Yeah.
so we hear these stories quite
Yes.
often. And then,
Yeah.
when you go on social media, you'll see stories. And there are famous accounts of judges. There is one of our local judge. He's no longer with us, but Judge Damon Keith.
Oh
He
yeah. Famous.
there, yes. So apparently, some attorneys mistook him for somebody else and decided to talk down to him, and
Mhm.
then had to go into the courtroom. And when the bailiff said, "All rise," he walked in and they were like, "Oh,
Ooh.
wait. Oh, 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 we messed up." And,
Mhm.
but again, you're right. We all don't have the same experience. But unfortunately, every time a Black man is killed, it puts the rest of us in jeopardy.
Absolutely.
Because I have two sons and I'm constantly explaining to them, this is the way you have to comport yourself
Support yourself.
out
Yes.
when you're out and about. I've had this conversation with other people who say, but we have to have that conversation. And I said, no, you don't.
Mhm.
You're non-melanated. You don't have to worry about it.
Not
I
melanated. Yes.
You're non-melanated, not
Yeah.
being offensive to anyone. And even for my listeners who are overseas,
Mhm.
America is a different country because we have this obsession with the gun.
Oh
We
my goodness. Yes.
we believe that everyone has a right to a gun, and maybe Dr. Angie one day will do a show and talk about that belief system. But
Mhm.
we have so many shootings for a variety of reasons. I mean, it's
Mhm.
just shootings everywhere. But it's interesting that when we talk about school shootings, when we
Mhm.
talk about club shootings, when we talk about hospital shootings, movie theater shootings, all of those things, typically it is done by a non-melanated person. If
Yes.
you are in your neighborhood, it's not necessarily that someone Black is going to rob you. It
Mhm.
as someone explained to me a long time ago, and I said, this makes so much sense to me now. He
Mhm.
said, this is a a um a response of poverty. This is proximity. I, we're in your neighborhood. We see you have a nice car. Guess what? We're gonna go steal your car. So most likely, because people tend to group themselves in similar similar ethnic groups,
Mhm.
backgrounds, that type of thing. Sometimes, you know, you will have a really nice, ritzy neighborhood. It
Mhm.
might be bordered by a neighborhood that may be facing some challenges. And
Mhm.
those that are facing challenges may decide, you know what, those people over there got some stuff I want. I'm going
Mhm.
over there to take it. That happens all over the world.
Yes.
But in America, we make it seem as if Black and brown people do the majority of the crime. And
Which is
really,
not true.
it's
Oh my
not.
God.
And when you look
Yeah.
at statistics, it doesn't bear that out.
No, it doesn't. And actually, there was a famous man giving us a black gentleman. He was giving a
Mhm,
speech about and I remember I saved it. I saved it. I may have saved it a year ago or something. But
mhm,
he was giving a speech, and in the question and answer portion, I think he's a professor and writer and everything. Cannot remember his name, but there was a young man, a white gentleman, I believe he was, young guy in the audience, and uh, he asked a question about, the violent nature of Black people. Like, do you think what, or some of his question, whatever. And oh my goodness, the response of this, the man took time to make. And basically what he was saying was, his response was something along the lines of, I am not wondering or unsure about who is the most violent. This is what his response was. He said,
Mm-hmm.
there's no doubt that, I don't even think he said in my mind. It was just like, there's no doubt that white people
Mm-hmm.
in America are the most violent. And he, compared to Black folks, and he based it on, and he gave a long answer, what we are literally just really learning, and still there's more, about the multiple well-off, well-to-do, and wealthy rich cities that have been burned down by white
Yes.
folks. Not just
Yes.
burned down. It's so important for us to be learning this stuff. There are many places. Um, I think back in the day, a lot of us knew about Rosewood because of the movie
Mm-hmm.
that was made, and then Tulsa came out, and then there's more and more. There's all these places. Drowned, the city was drowned, I think in Florida, whatever, that they put water over it.
Mm-hmm. They
Uh,
did it in Georgia. There's
I think it's Georgia. Yeah.
it's Lake Lanier.
Yeah,
Under Lake
thank you.
Lanier in
Yes,
Georgia, there
they
is a
flooded
town.
it.
Yes, they flooded it because they wanted the Black people gone.
Exactly.
Many times you can go throughout the country and land has been stolen. There's Bruce Beach in California, which was somehow or another was stolen from a family, and they were annexing off the property, and then the family
Mhm.
was finally able to get it back.
Yep.
There's another
There's a Cosia as well. There was another place,
yep.
Cosia. There's
Mm-hmm.
multiple, and I'm sure many more.
Yes.
And yeah, to his, as the gentleman was answering that question, uh, all this violence
Mm-hmm.
perpetrated against not just individuals, and we know the numbers of lynchings, like all this
Yes.
violence.
Yes.
And it breaks my heart to see sometimes younger, again, where the experience of being Black in a racist society
Mm-hmm.
touches all of us, but the experiences aren't identical for everyone, but many of them are similar. One
Mm-hmm.
of the things that, and I just reiterate that again, because there's always been a Black wealthy class. There's always
Yes.
been a upper middle, all that always has been. But for
Mm-hmm.
many, it breaks my heart to see young people who, and even of any age really, but I've had students who, lifelong Detroiters, come from certain parts of Detroit, because we have wealthy parts of Detroit as well, um,
Mm-hmm.
for whom their whole life experience has been to see Black people in a more impoverished,
Yeah.
life that they're living. And the assumption is that, because these are also the messages that sometimes they're
Mm-hmm.
getting,
Mm-hmm.
from their own families and stuff, that, this is Black life, across the
Mm-hmm.
board. And having not seen, that was one of the wonderful things that the Obamas helped to open a lot of people's eyes
Yes.
about. But I
Yes.
remember one young man in particular, because he was like, why is it we just can't seem to build anything? Why can't we have, and that was before I knew about all these, they had been stolen from us on such a level. But it was heartbreaking because,
Mm-hmm.
his thinking was, that stereotype. Um,
Yes.
and so, in learning about how we've been violated on multiple levels, the towns that have been taken and burned up. First of all, it seems that no one is interested in the poor towns. So these are towns of wealth and built up and thriving, that Black people of their doctor's office and dentists and all that stuff. The other thing is that we don't talk enough about the intellectual property and the
Yes.
brilliance and artistry and the things that we have contributed, because all of those places weren't just burned down or flooded and then it's just gone. Many times the white folks who did that were all stealing
Yes. Everything they
valuable,
could get
everything they
their
get their
hands on.
hands on, whether it was the
Mm-hmm.
valuable paintings, the
Mm-hmm.
wealth and all that stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
we've just contributed so much. But in talking about the vulnerability of Black women, when you were talking about those conversations with your sons and
Mm-hmm.
melanated people have to have with their
Mm-hmm.
kids, Or you think about, as they say, this club that no mother wants to join,
Yes.
who have lost their kids, who've had their kids taken from them because of violence from police officers. We know there's some fantastic, wonderful police officers out there. Most are, I'm quite sure, of course. But the violence, the research that we've seen and of the violence perpetrated against Black young men at the hands of officers it just shouldn't be. But when you think about the tears of Black women, these Black mothers, it's almost like it's another aspect of dehumanizing who we are.
Yeah.
With those stereotypes that you talked about at the beginning. And then, well, they don't really hurt as much. They don't really hurt, those endless tears. I think another, just to go back to, your early question, another reason why it may be hard or ill-advised, some people feel ill-advised. I'm not saying ill-advised, but some feel ill-advised or just hard to express or emote, is because after a while, it's like it's like a scab that forms over a wound. You feel like that you know how people say that, just cry until there are no more tears left. And that's been too many Black women's experiences with all that has been taken and abused out of them and dehumanized and all of that. That's part of it too. I think that that's definitely part of that, unfortunately.
And you're right. And I am reminded, and I share this with people, because when you were talking about how when we cry, oh, they're not really in pain. We know we confront this in the medical field.
Absolutely.
When we go to the doctor, there is the belief. And every once in a while, I'll come across it where a doctor will say, well, you don't need that kind of pain medicine. You don't know what I need. I need another doctor. I know I'm not listening to you. Bring me another doctor. Yes, I'm about to be the angry Black woman because you're not going to treat me as if my skin is thicker than someone else, because that's a stereotype. It is not true. Everybody has a pain tolerance. Some people have higher pain tolerances than others. In the United States, Black women have the highest mortality rate from childbirth.
Yep.
We are not heard. No one listens to us. Serena Williams, the greatest tennis star ever.
Yeah.
World renowned, wealthy, educated, all of those things. Moral, married, had a husband.
Yeah.
White husband had to advocate for her because she knew. She said, I have blood clots. I know what I have. I know what I'm feeling. You need to, whatever they needed to do. No one would listen to her until her white husband spoke up for her.
Yeah.
This is Serena Williams, a woman with immense power.
Yeah, exactly.
When we look at where we are in technology, in terms of medicine, gynecology was built on the backs of Black women.
Yeah.
Specifically Black slaves. Why? Excuse me. Black women slaves, when they first started doing experiments, we don't need to give them any anesthesia. We'll just experiment and do whatever we want to them. When we were enslaved, our husbands, the men in our lives, our children would be lynched and beaten and killed and raped in front of us. And the story has been passed down that Black women had to learn how to push your feelings down and help stand up, because you had to hold your man up. You had to hold your kids up because this master is sitting up here threatening. So everybody had to do something. You had no autonomy over your own body.
Exactly.
The slave master could come and do whatever he wanted to you and make you do whatever he wanted you to do.
Yeah.
And we have trauma. And it's interesting because you talk about high blood pressure, you talk about diabetes, you talk about heart disease. All of those things are typically found in Black communities. And we often say, well, it's our food. But we took the worst of the food that we were left with and turned it into exquisite delicacies.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, fried chicken may not be the healthiest, but when it's made with love, and if you're having a rough day, fried chicken makes everything all right. I'm just saying.
That
You
can't
know,
argue with that one, right?
it does. I'm not suggesting that you eat fried chicken every day. I'm just saying.
That's
But
right.
as Black women, we have taken the negatives and
Mhm.
turned them into strength.
Exactly.
So,
And
so
because we're genius at doing that, I'm sorry to interrupt.
yes,
Because we are
yes.
genius at doing that,
Mm-hmm.
which is one of our, it's a, we are your strength. Is we're all using the word strong. That
Yes,
is part of our strength. It's also part of our brilliance. It's
yes.
also part of our genius. It's
Mm-hmm.
also part of our great talent. Because we are genius at doing that, the assumption is, oh, well, I guess it doesn't really affect them. That's part of the reason for the assumption. The other part, other major part of the reason for these assumptions is that you can't maintain centuries worth of human trafficking without creating all kinds of false narratives around it so that you can continue to justify it, to continue to just make your money off the backs of
Right.
these people. And we know that one of the most ingrained lies about Black people is that we're not, fully human anyway.
Yes.
And A, we're not fully human. B, we just, we're talking
We
about
lack intelligence. We
we
lack the
lack in talent,
intelligence.
all of
Mm-hmm.
that, exactly. And so we're talking about human emotions,
Mm-hmm.
sensitivities and things like that that we don't really understand.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really
The
understand.
reason they could snatch our children away, well, they don't look at their children the same way.
Ex-
Yes, we did.
exactly. Yeah, they don't
That
really,
was
yeah, it doesn't really hurt them like that. They're like cattle.
right.
Of course, we now not to liken us to, I'm an animal lover, as are you. So
Mm-hmm.
they do talk about how it pains animals actually to have the
Yes.
loss of their calves and the loss of that
Mm-hmm.
for their
Mm-hmm.
family and all of that and what
Mm-hmm.
that does to them. How much more so these beautiful human beings walking around. And you know what? I'm sorry, I was looking at this behind you because I had just recently run across an article. I was going to see if I could quote from it. The research that was just recently done
Mm-hmm.
specifically on the impact of exactly like what you were talking about, the
Mm-hmm.
trauma and the impact of discrimination and how it impacts us physically, like,
Yes.
actually tracking that.
Yes.
Um, and people are doing more of that kind of research, which is so necessary. I'm going to try to see if I can pull it up. It's okay. Anyway, so yeah, we are traumatized on all of those levels. And so what has that taught us? That exactly like you said, you need to push that stuff down if you're going to survive and make it, if you're going to hold up your family, if you're going to hold up your Black community, if you're going to make it to the next one. And if you cry another tear, you might get another smack across the face or who knows what.
Mm-hmm.
And feeling that you're not being heard, feeling that it's not making any difference, feeling that it could actually make things worse. I keep talking about crying, but just like you said, there's
You
it's the
can't be
range of our
angry.
emotions. Can be anger.
Right.
Oh
Mm-hmm.
my goodness, there's a young lady. You talk about TikTok universe. There's a young lady. Oh my gosh, she's hilarious. I cannot, and I'm not remembering her name. I've seen a few of her videos. Um, and she captured it perfectly. She's English. She's English.
Mm-hmm.
She's in Britain. And all she was what was she doing? She was like imitating as if it was an office meeting, like, come into the conference room, but the camera's only on her. So all you hear
Okay.
are the voices behind as if the voices of the people in the room, at the meeting, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So literally all she did was come in and she sat down and the voice, because she's got the voice off camera, right? And so the voice is saying to her supervisor, something along the lines of, "Thank you for answering the email." And she's a Black woman, right? Uh, the young lady who did this whole thing. So she said,
Mm-hmm.
"Supervisor, thank you for answering the email and whatever it was. I appreciate that you find, that you got that to me, that you finally did or whatever." And so the young lady who was doing this little vignette, she looks off camera and she answers her in a respectful way, but it was establishing her boundaries. And
Mm-hmm.
so she was in a very professional way saying, "Oh, sure, no problem." But what she said was, but next time I would just, really, really respectfully ask that, for the future, when you send that, would you do blah, 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 something very reasonable that had to do with her boundaries. I don't remember what it was.
Mm-hmm.
That was literally all she said. Everybody in the conference room, like you can hear these voices. Oh my gosh, they lost their minds. Whoa, whoa, slow down. You're too angry, too angry. Oh, bring it down, breathe. And she, of course, her reaction, because her point, of course, is this is what a Black woman has to deal with.
Yes.
Where was the anger? All she did was make a respectful request.
That's
Everyone
it.
lost their minds. Oh my goodness, do we need to get you anything? Are you gonna be okay? Like
You're
she's
right. Yes.
hysterical. She's
Mm-hmm.
lost. She's dangerous. Like she was about. They didn't say it part, but of course the reaction is she's dangerous and she's about to blow. Like that's how they were treating her. And of course she was looking at them like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my goodness. And then when she would try to raise her hand to say, oh no no no, it was just just to kind of every time she made a move. Oh, they're gonna escalate
Yeah.
again. Like she's getting dangerous. Oh my goodness. Of course it was hilarious, but so true and tragic. And she made her point. Like you
Mm-hmm.
have no room to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're emoting too much. So obviously you're a dangerous loose cannon who's already barely human and you're a hysterical woman on top of it. So you're a hysterical black loose cannon.
Exactly. Exactly. And Dr. Angie, so many women feel like that.
Yes.
Working in corporate America, in higher education, in the medical field, in the technology field.
Yep.
I learned a few years ago the software industry. So everything from app development to video games, that's still the boys' club. And so the few women that are in tech talk about how sexist it is.
Yeah.
We can
Even
talk
and I would
about,
say, not to interrupt, even though there have been several black women who have
yes.
invented some of the common technology that we use every day in our cell phone.
Absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely. We have Melody Hobson, who is married to George Lucas. She is
Yes.
a dynamo in her own right, but she
Yep.
talks about it. She's like, yeah, I still get the, well, who are you? And why are you here? And then when they find out who she is, oh, wait, 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 wait. No. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. What advice would you give, Dr. Angie, for women that are struggling in an office and trying to balance it all, but
Mhm.
really feel like I can't be vulnerable? So I'm not really being my authentic self
Mhm.
because they have a face that they
Right.
wear. And many Black women talk about that. We sit around and girl, let me tell you, my boss, the director, whoever it is, and
Mhm.
you laugh and joke because it's support. But
Yeah.
oftentimes when you go into the office, it's almost like you said, you have to put that armor on and you're like, all right, I got it.
Mhm.
I'm gonna get through the day, and not like people will say, fix your face, oftentimes,
Yes.
and you're like, but I've had people say that to me. You should smile more. I'm not angry. I don't need to, grin like a Cheshire cat.
Exactly.
But at the same time, because it makes you uncomfortable, now I have to go around and change myself in a way that makes everybody around me comfortable, yet I am struggling. And so
Exactly.
then when I have an issue, I'm not able to ask for help.
Mhm. Um, Advice that I would give, one thing that I would say is every day, always remind yourself of your why and your purpose for sure. So, uh, why are you going to work? Well, your purpose in existence, what you have to give to the world and all of that, of course, but specifically to that particular job or that aspect of your career. Why are you going there? Is it a part of a bigger goal for you? You have someplace that you are trying to get to. You have future plans for yourself. You have dreams that you're trying to fulfill. Remind yourself every day of the why that's attached and your reasons, goals, and objectives that's attached to why you are going in there every day. I think everything you're saying is so true. It's absolutely real. It's not all in folks' heads, no doubt about it. Um, but if you go in there seeking friends, you're more likely, it can make it more difficult for you. You're more likely to get your feelings hurt. If you happen to find a genuine friend, and make sure they're genuine. Do not tell all your business all at once. Don't just splatter. Give time to let it develop organically if you feel comfortable with that person, and find out what they're about or who they are, because there are a lot of friendly people who are happy to stab you in the back, a lot of friendly people who are happy to sabotage your forward movement in your career. But if you happen to find a friend, someone that you feel comfortable with, you can chat with or whatever, lovely, wonderful. But one piece of advice is don't go in there looking for friends.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely. So remind yourself every day of why you're going in there. Remind yourself every day of what you get out of it. And what I mean by that is you signed a contract and, et cetera. So is going there every day helping to move you forward with your career goals? Are you learning things? Are you developing in what you're wanting to grow? Are you expanding in the ways you want to? Is this something that you kind of have to like grit your teeth and bear for a while, but you feel like it will lead to the next step for you? Then you can balance and decide if this is worth it to continue for another year, 6 months, or whatever it is. So yeah, knowing why you're there, why you're doing what you're doing, and it's a good thing to revisit regularly, because it can change and there's nothing wrong with that. If you feel like it's too much and it's just sucking the soul out of you, then maybe start planning for that exit or that move. Start looking around maybe for another position or something that if you don't feel it's completely killing you, and you do feel that there's some kind of future or something there that will help you move forward, again, remind yourself what you get out of it. If it's the pay, research has shown that pay enough, that's not going to do it. That's not going to do it. But if it temporarily like fulfills a short-term goal, for the payment, and while you look elsewhere, whatever it may be, if you feel you're getting, as you're balancing that and asking those questions, if you feel like you're getting more out of it than the stupid stuff, and you feel that it's worth it to stay for a while or give it some time or whatever, fine. As you revisit that on a regular basis, if you're feeling that it's becoming too much, your mental and emotional and physical and spiritual health are not worth sacrificing that to a toxic environment. Another thing to keep in mind too is, like I said, don't go in there looking for friends and all that. If you find one, lovely, it's nice, make sure. Something else too is to acknowledge that, and again, this goes back to our being vulnerable, acknowledge to yourself and your trusted friends in your private life around you, your family, whomever that you can bounce things off of. Acknowledge that hurt my feelings. Maybe that hurt. It's important to say that. It's important to be honest with ourselves about that. Not only to get that out, so we don't carry around toxic emotion stuff, but also to help problem solve. In your own head, or bouncing off with someone in terms of, okay, well, this is what the environment is. What can I do going forward? And while it's, people always say you can't change other people, I always say God could change anybody. So
amen.
You can pray. I've seen some folks change at work. But what you can do is to help educate them as you problem solve. So for example, I was hearing you, I'm sorry, I would say that this comes under the heading of, try to be aware of the things that maybe you can affect. We know that we can affect our own behavior. Of course, that's key. I may not be able to make everybody change or whatever, but I can affect how I handle it. So that's the problem solving, but also how that does impact other people, because sometimes people will engage you to get a rise out of you, a negative rise.
Yes. Yeah.
And they can find out pretty quickly that it may not work, so they may move on. Other times people will are maybe they're not trying to be whatever, they're just plain racist. You just make them uncomfortable, they just don't know why, or whatever the case may be. So when I say problem solve, I was thinking of like the example that you were giving earlier. I was trying, what was you were saying about like being in the workforce and people, the smile.
Yes.
Smile. Yes. When you were talking about that.
Smile. You look so much prettier with a smile. Why are you frowning? I'm not frowning. I'm minding my business.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So some things that can hit that might be able to help in a situation like that would be to show them what your frown looks like. See how, yeah, and then literally saying that to, see, this is my frown. See that? And then this is not. See, can you see the difference?
Yeah.
See? Well, that does a couple of things. Number one, it gives you room to express yourself so you don't feel so utterly gagged. You actually can answer them, but we need to do it in respectful and professional ways. So that helps to, if nothing else, just to help you say, let me get some things off my chest. Actually, you're mistaken. Let me show you what my frown looks like. See?
I love it.
Number one, exactly. See, I like to bring it right to them. Bring it to them. It educates them. It helps you get some things off your chest. And because you often that will take people aback, so they're not quite sure what to do with that. That alone will shut all of that down, at least for some period of time, because they've got to go back and think this thing through. Wait, what? You gotta think it through.
She showed me her frowny face. Oh, okay.
Well, I still think you look better when you smile. Well, thanks for the compliment. I like my smile too, but I don't feel like doing it right now. You have a wonderful rest of the day.
Yeah.
Okay. There it is.
God bless.
Exactly. You can get real creative with that, but it's important to check our own spirit and not be angry, because the anger will come through if we're like, and then try to do any of that. That comes, then you can create enemies and hurt yourself and all of the rest. I do enjoy messing with people in a nice way, kind of get them a little bit, and it can take some of the tension out of the room if you are comfortable doing that. Everybody isn't.
Yes.
Because I also could, now mind you, I had to grow into this because earlier in my career, I had to
like, what?
Exactly. Or try to come up with knowing me earlier in my career, I would have come up with an excuse, like not an excuse, but explaining. I would have been explaining myself. Oh, well, no, it's just that, whereas now I don't need to explain, but I thought of another creative thing which is, and this often is very interesting. It takes people aback as well. Kind of knocks them off their square a little bit without never insulting people. I don't believe in people putting people down. Well, let me see your smile. Now, is your face frozen like that all the time? Can I see your smile? But no, smile wider though, because that I don't feel like you really smiling. Do it again. Yeah, now I want to see that from you. Should I ask for that from you every time I see you? There's a lot of ways to just, kind of work with people, but again, you want to make sure that you're not angry in your heart. And if you're comfortable, if you're not, then you could just say, well, no, just like you said, no, I'm not. A lot of times it can help diffuse tension to start with the positive. I love starting with the positive. Thank you for the compliment. I think I have a pretty smile too. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. You go have a nice day. And just leave it there.
Yeah.
Whatever. Handle people. But all of those are ways of practicing your voice, having your voice, diffusing the air and the tension for yourself as well. And again, like I said, everybody's not comfortable doing all of that. But I would remind people that you don't owe people an explanation. You can let, if they are truly concerned, sometimes people really are concerned. You can let them know, oh no, I'm fine. This is just how I look when I'm concentrating. Or I'm thinking some things through, but thank you so much for your concern. And then, and just leave that. Some people really are, they may not know why, but they really are nervous because you're not grinning. You put them at ease, but I mean, those are scripted things, but just, bouncing them off of your trusted people in your own private life, talking it through. I know it's for example, my husband and I do that all the time. What he tells me about what's going on at work, what I tell him about what's going on at work, and we bounce things off of each other and he'll give me some excellent suggestions of just in terms of how people are. I'm like, oh, that's a good point. That's true. Or he'll, say, bounce something at me, and I'll do the same for him. And he'll come, we both would, he'll come home the next day and he'll be like, yeah, that really made a difference, and sometimes it takes time. It takes some weeks or whatever. Because you do have to teach people a little bit about who you are and where your boundaries are and all the rest. But
yes.
So those are some things I would say to keep in mind. Know your value always, of course, what you bring to the table. And then, like I said, ultimately, keep checking in with yourself and deciding, is this worth it? If you feel it's worth it, just work on ways in which you can make your area, your circle of work, something that doesn't feel like it's drudgery and pain every day.
Absolutely.
You know, and that can be an ongoing kind of thing. If you do feel like it's too much, then start making plans.
Yeah.
Don't leave it unless the Lord told you to. Don't leave it yet until you have something else in place concretely.
Hallelujah.
Yes,
Amen.
absolutely. Yes. But yeah, check in with ourselves, know our value, know what we bring to the table. Don't go in there looking for friends, less likely you'll get your feelings hurt. But you and I are both cancers, so we get our little feelings hurt. We
We
get
do
our
quite
feelings.
a bit. Hmm.
We do. But we bounce back and keep going and recognize that we're wonderful people.
That's right.
So that's my advice in this March Women's Month, and I with my green and what is he, my leprechaun for
Awesome.
St. Patrick's Day.
Awesome.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Yes. Awesome. Dr. Angie, this was a great conversation, a great interview. Thank you so much for joining us this month. We can't wait to see you next month. Know
Yeah.
you're going to have another exciting topic for us. But
Looking
before we
forward.
get out of here, tell us where we can find you all across social media. Tell us how we can reach you, and what do you have coming up next?
Okay, well, thank you for that. You can reach me at the social media platforms at Angela Celeste May or Dr. Angela Celeste May on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn. I have to think about it. What's it? LinkedIn and what am I trying to say? X, Twitter.
Hmm.
So I'm on all of those places. Let's see, as an individual, and then also as part of my the other half of my of A.M. May and Associates Incorporated, which is my company with my sister Michelle May. We are on Facebook and Instagram as well, and so we do counseling, consulting, and coaching. You can find us on those sites and at our website, which is amassociates.com also. Let's see. I've been taking a bit of a break at the moment, but which means I'm not performing or doing teaching or anything at the moment. However, um, probably starting into April or so, that's when I'll start up rehearsals again for a performance that will be coming up in Michigan. What is it called? I forgot. It's here in Detroit at the theater, the Aretha Franklin Theater is what I'm trying to say.
Hmm.
But that'll be coming up later into the middle of the year.
Okay.
I was just recently awarded a contract, a consulting contract. Actually, I was invited to bid for a consulting and training contract myself and my company, and so I was just recently awarded it. So I'm very excited. I was reading it.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's for Universal Prevention Services. So basically, I will be providing training. I'm reading like the little title. It's Parent Prompters Training Provider Services. So basically, what I'll be doing is training anyone who either has kids or is a guardian or works with children in any capacity. Just training them on the best ways and the healthiest ways to engage with their kids that and contribute to their development, their emotional and mental development.
Hmm.
Explaining to people, helping them understand why it's not healthy to just always sit your kids in front of a screen and let that be the babysitter, and you need to interact with them, how that helps their brain develop, all of that stuff. So
Hmm.
yeah, so I'm excited about that. I'll be doing some training with that starting at end of April over the next several months into September. So it's a contract that AMA and myself have won. So I'll be doing some of that, and I'll be going back into the university classroom because I teach at Wayne County Community College District as well. I teach psychology courses, so I'm doing that later on in the fall. Right now, I'm just relaxing
Very good.
for the moment. But thank you so much for asking. I always appreciate it.
Tell us about your music and your book.
Oh, thank you girl, so much. Here we go. Folks, she's wonderful. Okay, so my book is called Freedom. What is the experience of living without negative self-imposed limitations? You can get it at Amazon. You can get it really it in soft cover, hard cover, and Kindle. Any place where you get your books. like I said, Amazon already, barnesandnoble.com and other places. It is wonderful book. It's very readable. It was my master's thesis, and I was encouraged by many people to publish it. So it's written in a very layperson, easy way to read. But basically, I did research with folks, interviewed people from different backgrounds, and 7 themes came out of it about how it's called freedom because it's about how they got free from feeling stuck in different aspects of their lives. And these 7 themes are key things that seem to be fairly universal that we can all learn from. So yes, do get your hands on a copy of Freedom. Thank you for asking. There it is. Also, gosh, this is
Music.
another book too, because I am an editor as well as an author.
Yes.
So you may be having this gentleman on at some point, but Bias is All Around Us. My good friend and brilliant, brilliant man, Dr. Eric Bean. This is a wonderful book that he wrote and that I edited. I edit books as well. So especially in this political season, it's an excellent book about how to, with so much, I don't say misinformation, so many lies out there that are not true about conspiracy theories in the political realm and all kinds of places. That little book is a wonderful reference, again, written very user-friendly, tell people from all kinds of backgrounds to better understand how do I know if this is from a good source? How do I know if I can trust this source? He breaks it down in a very, very easy manner for people. So it's a very valuable book. I encourage y'all to go get Biases All Around Us. And by music, you can go to reverbnation.com. My Dr. Angela Celeste May with the doctor in front. Facebook is my music page on Facebook also. Most of my YouTube channel, Angela Celeste May, is also dedicated to music things as well. Vocal quick tips and understanding genres of music and all that. And then if you want to contact me for any booking, see my middle name at right there, Celeste. So you can always email Celeste and then MUS, which is short for music. So Celeste MUS and the number 1 at AOL.com. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Angie. We can't wait for you to come back in April. But until then, thank you again. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Kim B. Davis Show. You can find me everywhere on social media. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, /X, whatever it's called, Snapchat, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, all over social media, and it's Kimberly Batchelor Davis. Batchelor is spelled BATCHELOR. You can see this show on youtube.com/Kimberly Batchelor Davis. You can hear this show on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google, and Wisdom. And you can learn more about me as an author at kimbdavis.com. Thank you again for tuning in. I hope you'll join us on our next episode. And as always, remember, be magnificent.